Hi, this is Scott Garibay. We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about your cleric and what does your cleric have faith in their deity to do. All right, so I am very blessed. I go to a great evangelical church, and I'm elder. This year, just started this year. I'm an elder in that church, right? And so I get to help make decisions for the church, and the church, decided a new path for the fall. They said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Kind of raise the bar and do more for the people who are here, and just make this place better for every single congregant, right? So the elders discussed it, and we made this decision. It was announced months ago to the whole congregation, and it's called Encounters, and it's a new type of service. It's not another sermon. It's on Sunday nights, and this is, me, I've been telling you, my Dungeons and Dragons game is on Sunday night, right? So I'm like, right? This is going to block, Dungeons and Dragons one night a month, right? So for the first time ever, I had to choose directly between Dungeons and Dragons and church. Of course, I chose church, right? And now I'm going to have to figure out what I do with my Sunday group. Like, do we meet on Saturdays? Do we get in at 7:30? Because, well, I don't want to, let me not get ahead of myself, right? So this thing was called Encounters, and it's a new type of service. The idea is it's going to be different than a regular Sunday sermon, right? And there might be like somebody who does a music piece who's not in the worship team, right? Maybe one of the lay pastors in our church preaches rather than the regular preacher, right? Maybe there's going to be a testimony. Maybe, somebody does, a praise dance, something really out there, something unusual, right? And the shape of this thing is going to be different each month that we have it, right? So I prayed for this thing for 4 months. I was like, God, please bless this, help this work, right? And you know what? I'll tell you right now, my prayer did not fail. I was diligent in my prayer. I was more diligent in this prayer than anything I've prayed on for probably 2 or 3 years, right? So I wanted this to work, and I encouraged the group to step out and to do this, right? Because the reality is people just don't, it's hard to get people to come to extra services of church, right? Like it's challenging, right? So, but honestly, I was like, all of us knew, every elder knew, this is the fall, Eagles are going to be playing, and guess what? When our first Encounters hit, the Eagles were 4-0, and our encounter group was right when the Eagles played. And you know what? Every elder, every member of the church was just like me, and we put out 30 chairs, right? Because hey, come on, people are gonna, choosing between hearing, more churchy church stuff and the song and a testimony, or the Eagles, smashing, other people down and other people smashing them down and scores getting points getting put up. Who's gonna win? 70 people showed up, right? Like double the amount we expected, right? And we had to pull extra chairs out to sit everybody, right? I was shocked, right? And the reality was, I knew God could fill that place, but I didn't know if he was willing. Like, I know he has the power. I don't always know God's will, right? But the thing is, what did I trust him to do? And I prayed and I said, do this extra thing. And he did, right? You're a cleric, right? You are a player. You have a player character who's a cleric. What is the vast majority of Dungeons and Dragons players doing right now with their cleric? They trust them to give the fighter a few extra hit points, and that is it. Maybe, right? They're like, oh, let me do a remove curse or remove condition, spell when I roll into a new village, right? But the reality is, these clerics are connected to a god, small g, right? Like, these are deities. They have major power. They can reshape the fundamental, physical laws of their world, right? And right now, that's just it, right? In 1974, we opened the gate of combat. There are 2 more pillars. We have completed the pillar of combat in Dungeons & Dragons. Social interaction and exploration, we have barely scratched the surface, right? How far should a cleric, so when a cleric comes to a problem that isn't, oh, the fighter got, stabbed a couple extra times and needs more hit points, what more can the deity do? What does your player expect from their deity, right? How far does it go, right? Does it extend beyond the fighter? And how does piety, how does devotion, how does expectation from God impact your cleric? And I'll tell you right now, the vast majority of cleric roleplay absolutely sucks and has nothing to do with being based in how actual people of faith interact with deities, right? And the vast majority of people playing these clerics know nothing about devotion or piety or faith or deities, right? And the reality is we do not allow this nescience when it comes to combat, right? If you get a new player and they're like, oh, well, I pick up my bow, and oh my gosh, when I put the arrow onto the bow, and the stone is cutting the string. You're like, what? Yeah, I can't. I think the feather is going to really not make it go that far, and it's scratching the string. Do you have the arrow on backwards? We do not allow ignorance in combat, but we allow this ignorance with these absurd cartoonish representations of people of faith. And people of faith, any person of faith would ask more than to heal the fighter for more HP. And that's what we're using. We're using these clerics as heal bots, and this is outrageously wrong, and all of it's marinated in ignorance, and it's got to get fixed. And as we fix this, lost people who know nothing about devotion and piety and faith and what a person of faith would ask a deity for are going to begin to explore religion and piety and devotion. The social interaction pillar of Dungeons & Dragons is barely scratched, right? And the exploration pillar the gate isn't even open, and it cannot be opened until we have really pushed the doors wide on social interaction, right? Because we have fully opened the gate of combat when it comes to the D&D pillar. We have barely scratched social interaction, okay? And exploration, the gate is still closed. But this is where we're heading. This is the important part. Thank you to my God for answering my question, right? For answering my request, my prayer, for filling that, our basement, it was an informal, we didn't even hold it in the main sanctuary. We held it downstairs, and it was packed. My God answered, right? What does your deity answer for your cleric? What does your cleric even have the courage to ask for? This all is a completely, virtually untouched area, right, of knowledge and learning and importance in Dungeons & Dragons. I am telling you, Dungeons & Dragons is an intricate model of humanity, and where we are heading with it, we are barely, you have no idea, we are still on the launching pad, right? I don't even know if the rockets have fired yet on what we're going to do with Dungeons & Dragons, right? It's an important question. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you shown me to be wrong and really, really done more with your cleric than just fill in the fighter with more HP, with maybe removing curse when you hit one village? What are your tales? I'd love to hear what you've asked for. What has your deity been willing to do beyond be a heal bot? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.